This is the final episode of No Father is Better Than One. To bring you up to speed, my sister Jessi has successfully pressed charges against my father, her stepfather, for sexually abusing her as a child. I don't know how he got the jail currency to get all the paper and the pens and stuff. Oh, but it made me so happy to burn it all. Like that he just wasted all of his fucking commissary.
You know, you say you don't know how, but it makes me all warm and fuzzy inside to remember to like imagine like a big guy named Juicy doing everything to him that he ever did to us. Maybe he's somebody's bitch and they gave it to him.
Fucking
Pete. In every way.
Pete and Juicy. Getting railed over a stainless steel toilet for a couple of stamps. That's what he deserves.
Isn't it?
And that's the other thing too. So like I said, my grandfather raised me, and he was very even tempered and he was kind. My mother's side of the family is very kind. And so
I used to be so jealous of you guys for having them. I really was.
Every time this is really bad. Every time we would go over to like his side of the family, like grandma, grandpa, great grandparents, and all that. Like we went to a family reunion. Oh, okay. Every single time we went there, I was also jealous of my mom's side of the family. I was like, I want to go home. This is all very weird. When we met his father and his half brother lived together in a house, and I couldn't have been more than like 6 or 7. And it was so weird because all of a sudden Pete was like, hey, I have a dad and a brother. And we were like, no, you don't. That's weird. And so we went and visited them in some random ass place in Tennessee. I don't remember. And they clearly did not give a shit that we were related. And they were like, you want something to drink? And we were like, what do you have? And we got Mountain Dew and milk. And we were like, Mountain Dew. And we go into the kitchen, and David opens the fridge, and then he just closes it, and he's like, you don't want Mountain Dew. And I was like, no, I do want Mountain Dew. And he's like, no, you do not. And I opened the fridge to get a Mountain Dew. Every bottle had a dribble of fucking tobacco chew spit down the side of it. They had all been opened, and they'd been drinking out of it. And that was what his dad and brother-in-law or half-brother were offering us to drink was, yeah. Your face says it all. Yeah. Imagine like a 7-year-old looking in there like,
I half expected you to say there was a human head in the fridge.
It wouldn't have surprised me. So I kind of want to follow up because I don't know that I ever told you. We did go and tell our grandmother, his mother, that he had been arrested. Did David or did we tell you that?
I think you did. I don't remember how it went though. I never talked to her because I didn't think she'd believe me.
Yeah, that's this. She's problematic.
The bitch is crazy.
Well, she did now, but.
Oh my God! Did you know this? Side note, okay.
Go ahead.
Side note: I moved out like 2 years after I moved out. I was told she had died. And then like 6 years later, David calls me and goes, Grandma Joanne died. And I was like, yeah, like years ago. Why are you just now calling me about this?
Wow.
I had no idea she was still, they told me she had died.
Why did they? Who knows?
Fuck if I know. But yeah, no, I thought she had died. So I was like, of course she's dead. I've known this. Like, I was such an asshole.
Yeah, no shit. God, call me with something I don't know. Jesus.
And then I was like, oh, wait, maybe she wasn't dead, but I thought she was.
So she was problematic herself. So David and I, for some reason, we took it upon ourselves. We were like, well, we have to tell her. Well, really, we knew because her husband had died, and she was living in public housing and living off Social Security, and she was poor. They never had a whole lot of money, but so we were like, well, she was kind of relying on him for income, and so we kind of have to tell her now that, you know, he's been arrested. So on the drive down there, we're both like, how do you think she's going to take it? And then like, I mean, in unison, we did this impersonation of her, and it was like, but he was such a good boy. And we were like, yeah, but there, she might say that, but we said it together and it was kind of funny. And so we go down there and we tell her, and she is like very solemn. She takes it very seriously, and she says, "But he was such a good boy." And David and I had to like keep ourselves from laughing because it was like, of fucking course she said that. And then it started like, well, maybe she's lying, and we were like, yeah, but she's not. She's not. He did it. He like said it. He's like in jail, and he's like, well, they could make it sound like he said anything. Yeah, but they didn't. He said it. Like we have it on tape. And she was like, well, can you get me his address? I need to write him. And we were like, you really shouldn't, because he'll just ask you for money and you don't have any money and you shouldn't send it to him. She was like, well, who's going to look after him? And we were like, no one will. You should not. No one should. And
the fucking prison guards.
yeah,
That's their job.
and Juicy will also
And
look
Juicy. We can't forget Juicy. I'm sorry, Juicy. No disrespect.
So this actually caused a falling out with my brothers and my grandmother, because she actually started to spend what little Social Security money she had on his commissary, and she really could not bring herself to like not support him. And she's only like 14 years older than him, and so she was, I think, 70 something. And
Yeah.
but she also was a lifelong smoker. She had emphysema, COPD. Like at one point she was in the hospital for like a month, and they pulled out like 5 liters of fluid off her lungs or something, like around her heart. Like she nearly died like 5 times.
Maybe it was one of those times they told me she'd actually been it.
Well, I mean, there were so many of the time, but she always like made a full recovery. But then
They
she
were
would,
just like, we'll get this one out of the way for next
yeah,
time.
but then she would like start smoking again, and it was like, you know, you, you and she also had like allergic reactions to like painkillers, and she had a horrible time in the hospital, and she wound up dying a couple years ago. And we did not tell Pete. We just figured he'll find out somehow. But
When he stops getting money.
yeah, but I had tried to like rebuild a relationship with her before all of this, and so I, took Anna down there and our daughter, and really when this all happened, I was like, no, this is toxic. I can't have my kid around this. And it really, when I was a kid, she was a really good person, but it didn't turn out that way. And I don't feel bad about not being there. That probably makes me a horrible person, but I don't care, because you cannot support pedophiles. Unconditional love as a parent is really interesting, because like cannibalism and being a pedophile, those are conditions that's where I would draw the line.
Honestly, the thing is I probably still would love him. Part of me would still love him because he is my child, but I would not support him. I would
Yeah.
not send him money. I'd be like, you know what? You done fucked up, boy. Now you got to pay for it.
I don't know. Maybe you're a nicer person than I am, because
No, that's absolutely not true. I can tell you that right now. No.
I feel like I would just be so disappointed. Like I don't know
Oh yeah.
how I could continue any kind of like, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't want to go down this hypothetical, but because it really hurts my heart to like think about like, what if
yeah.
my daughter
No,
did
our
something
kids are
like
going to be
that?
way cool.
Exactly.
We don't need to worry
They're
about
gonna be
this.
dope.
It does.
Oh boy. Okay.
I would probably cut off all contact with him
Yeah.
and disown him, but I'd still, inherently love him
Yeah.
because he is my child. I'd love the man he used to be, the man I raised him to be, is what it is.
And your heart would be broken forever.
It would be. It would be fucking shattered.
But to be fair, I think your boy's going to turn out all right, because he's super cool and very well
Yeah,
behaved.
he cries too much to hurt anybody.
Oh. He's a sensitive boy.
Sensitive. It's not a bad thing. No, he's sensitive. I remember when he was like 2 or 3 years old, and I would have a bad day mentally, and I would be on the couch and I would just cry. And he would come up to me and he'd hug me and he'd say, "It's okay, mommy. I'm here. It's okay." And like that, I can't picture that growing up to being a bad person.
Right.
Like he's inherently kind and sensitive. So I don't think I have anything to worry about.
All right. So we went over the letters. He does not write anymore. I didn't know this, but Anna actually sent him a letter telling him to stop writing me letters. Yeah. I think she was right because it was kind of fucking with my head a little bit. I was like ignoring them, but it was like
It was his way of still trying to be in control
exactly.
and still trying to further his abuse on you guys, and that's fucked up. You don't owe him shit.
No, and also like trying to rebuild or create or pretend we had some relationship that we didn't. And that was pretty insulting to think that.
Isn't it that he hated you so much as a child and didn't want anything to do with you, and then all of a sudden he gets locked up? Joseph!
Yeah.
Joseph!
And
Joseph.
I think part of it also was mine was the only address that he knew.
Because you live in your grandparents' house, right?
Yeah. So I will say this.
Yeah,
though.
no, I believe that.
He did send this. I think you'll appreciate this. This is how desperate things are in prison. He sent Daniel a Christmas card, not me. He didn't send me one. He sent Daniel's Christmas card to my house. Didn't send David one. Only Daniel. So Daniel's a cop. Okay.
What? I don't see the thought process that went into that. I don't
either. But so Daniel's a cop. And the Christmas card that Pete sends is he has gotten onto a computer in the jail and he has printed out one of those, you remember clip art in Word where you can get the pictures? He's printed out a cop car, okay? And underneath it says, "Merry Christmas, Daniel." And he just folded it, and that was the Christmas card. And I get it and I open it up and I take a picture of it and I send it to David and Daniel like in a group thread, and I'm like, "Hey, Pete says Merry Christmas," and he goes, "Fucking burn it." And then David says, "Oh look, he sent you a police car." It goes wee-hoo, because that's how fucking delusional he is. Like he thinks we're children still. Like we'll be endeared. He spent them juicy dollars for computer paper and computer time to print a black and white police car for his cop son. Also, none of us support him in any way. I don't know. He thinks I can't
even with that.
I know we don't and you know what's frustrating is like everybody that I know with a father, like even like not so great fathers, they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go see my dad this weekend. Well, I didn't know what to do, so I called my dad. Me and my dad are gonna hang out and do this," and I'm always like, "Really? You guys do stuff with your dads? That's weird." Why? I don't talk to my dad. I don't need him. Like,
that's how I am with mothers. Like everybody's like, "I'm gonna call my mom," or "I'm telling my mom about this," and I'm like, "Oh, I mean, I kind of wish my mother would have a horrific death right now, but I don't feel like I could say that around you guys. Y'all still like 18, 19-year-olds. You just left your mamas."
You have good memories of your mother and father. That's disturbing to us.
Yeah.
So
mine would make you cry.
So I will say that here's, and I don't give him any credit for this, but I do think it's an interesting look like behind his just his fucked up psyche. The only time that he ever said anything remotely human to me was when my grandfather died, and I think I may have said this before on the podcast. He was super old. He died when he was 98, and I was I was 23 when he died. So he was super old, and it was heartbreaking. Like I realized when he was in his 90s, I was like, "Oh, this guy's gonna die like any minute," and he's like my father, and this is gonna be horrible. And so he died. When he died, he was 98, and I think the day after, Pete called the house. I think I answered, and it was him, and he was like, "Or I heard your grandfather just died," and I was like, "Yep." He goes, "Well, I know he was more of a father to you than I was, and I know this probably really hurts, and I'm sorry." And I was taken aback that he would admit that he was not a father. And I just said, "Yep, it really hurts." And then I hung up. And that still sticks out as like, what a weird fucking time and in the back of my head, I'm like, he's kind of made that about himself right there. Like, yeah, like he had to bring himself into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. That's what my mother used to do. That's when I officially stopped talking to my mother, because when I pressed charges, I was talking to her again, and my brother and my sister wanted me to not press charges because they did not think she would survive jail, which I mean I was okay with, but they had some hangups about. So I didn't press charges against her. And she ended up, the house that the house, as we've been referring to it, ended up getting foreclosed on. So my brother, bless his heart, even though my mother has said horrible things about him and treated him like shit. And I'll let you know, my mother was a bad mother before she married your dad. When my son, oh my goodness, no, I thought of a toddler boy and I was like, my son, no. My brother, when he was like 2 or 3, they were at my grandma on my dad's side's house, and he was hungry and he started crying for food, as you know, toddlers do when they're hungry. And you know what my mother's reaction was? She took a porcelain plate and smashed it over his head. My
What?
grandmother apparently put her in a chokehold up against the wall, and then my daddy came in to see what was going on. I had to drag his mother off of my mother. So it's not like she was a good mom to begin with. And I remember her house got foreclosed on, and my brother came up to help her clean it out. And I went up there to get like whatever was left, because I didn't pack everything when I left. I just packed essentials, essentially. Um, essentials, essentially. I'm sorry, it's not that funny to me. So we're all up there, and I had a flashback, and my friend was there, and she ended up taking me outside, and I came back from it, and I was crying and I was shaking, and my mom comes out and she hugs me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is it, she's finally going to be a mom. And then she goes, I know it's hard for you, it's so hard for me too. And I was like, what the fuck is hard for you right now? Like, you didn't just flash back to abuse. You just, what, why are we making this about, this is not about you? And it frustrates me that she did that. That's when I was like, no, this bitch is, no, I'm done with her.
That was when the house got foreclosed on. That was such a weird day because it was like a family reunion because you were there, Laura was there, and Jonathan was there, and I had not seen him since we were kids. Because another weird thing about this whole narcissist child abuse thing is that Jonathan got kicked out of the house when he was like 12 or something. And they framed it. I really don't even want to go into it because he was a kid and now he's an adult, and nothing that they said was true. But they essentially kicked him out of the house for,
Because he was, I want you guys to know, it was because he was old enough to finally realize what Pete was doing to me and my sister. And he got scared and kicked him out. And he was horribly abusive to Jonathan before he did.
that's the real reason. Yeah. But we were all there, and it was gross to be in that house, and it was heartbreaking to see. Like, I don't know if we were there when you had your flashback, but I mean, tensions were high, and I remember Jonathan was just very determinedly taking out doors of the house, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, he can take the doors, that's fine, he can take everything, that's fine. This everything he's doing makes sense to me right now, this is fine. Like, do whatever, I don't give, like, that's great. It was just, I didn't know why I was there really. Then later, like with David, I was like, I feel like I could have been more supportive just in general, like in over the last like 10 years. And then like today I didn't even know what to do. And he was like, I think she just wanted us there. God, that was a strange day.
Yeah, I didn't really understand why you guys were there either, honestly. I remember she was like, oh, they should be here, there's some of their stuff here. And I'm like, it can all fit in a single box.
Yep.
Why can we not, like, I'll take it to them, I'm staying with David. Why do they, because I knew you guys didn't want to be there. I remember, I think it was Daniel that told me that you wouldn't even show up to their house for Christmas and Thanksgiving unless you had like taken a few shots of Jack or something beforehand. And I was like, I get that, I get that, I feel that, I understand.
The first time I did it, it was like a magic trick. I was like, whoa, this is tolerable. Okay. I really wish that I had like gotten into weed before I got into like drinking heavily, because I feel like that would have been like it would have made things better, I think. But yeah, my coping mechanism was drinking, and yeah, Christmas and Thanksgiving I couldn't do sober. So Lord.
No, I get it. Mine was drinking too. Drinking and cutting is what I did. And then I had my son and I quit drinking. And so I started smoking cigarettes. And then I had my daughter. I found out I was pregnant. I was smoking 2 packs a day, quit cold turkey. I
Oh
was
wow.
not a fun person to be around those first few months. And now I vape and I do this because I love myself.
I love you too.
I love you three.
Okay.
It's been a long day. I'm sorry.
Is there anything else you want to add? Anything about anything that we haven't covered or that you think is relevant?
It's a mental health episode, so take care of yourself. You can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself. And I don't advocate the whole you can't love other people before you love yourself. I don't think that's true. I think loving yourself is a journey and you'll get there. Just stick it out. It gets better. But talk about what bothers you. Don't keep it all bothered inside. If you can't talk to people around you, find a therapist you're comfortable with and talk to them. That's what they're there for. Take care of yourself. That's it.
You know what? I just realized I do actually have a question for you because we've been talking about negative coping mechanisms. What positive coping mechanisms do you have?
Well, like I said, talking about things. It's always good to get an outside perspective because you can get in your head and think and think and think, and you'll end up going on a loop and not being able to figure it out. So having an outside perspective, it always helps. But I say take some time every day to just be by yourself, do something that you enjoy, whether it's, reading or painting or cooking or whatever you enjoy doing. Take time every day to do something that you enjoy. If you do have a moment where you're struggling, try to think of good things that are happening in your life, things that you are working towards. Your goals is always good to keep in mind. Having something to work toward is good. I'm trying to think of all my coping mechanisms. It might take me a minute. Sometimes just, it's okay to just get in your feelings and cry and let it out. It's okay. You can't be happy all the time. It's all right to feel things. Just don't keep it bottled up. That's my biggest advice. Find an outlet, whether it's creative or talking or whatever.
I don't know when this episode is going to come out, but it is October, and at the end of October, I will have been alive for 5 years, and I don't think I'm going to go into that on this episode. But I will say that I just lost my train of thought. Balls.
Idiots. Did you ever watch Supernatural?
No.
Okay, well, there's a character named Bobby, and he always goes balls, and he calls everybody idiots. So whenever I hear balls, I'm like idiots, and vice versa.
That's right. No, what you said just then, thinking about good things. That sounds cliche, but I was going actually to say that because I've been alive for 5 years. A friend that I made in the psychiatric hospital when I was there, I'm still friends with her. When I met her, she was, I believe, 21, and she's now 26. And she knows Anna and our daughter. And it's interesting because in the last 5 years, she has gone from, basically like living with her parents and like not really having, like just drinking all the time and not really having any kind of like goal to now she like lives on her own. She's in college and she has a job and she's like doing the stuff, and she still like when she called me the other day and she was like, I just feel like I'm in a funk. I feel like I'm not doing anything. I just feel bad. And I was like, I get it. You're totally justified to feel like you're stagnating, because college is a slog. Like it doesn't feel like you're making any progress. And like when you have a part-time job when you're in college, like it feels like you're never going to make any money. I was like, but dude, you look at where you were when we met. I was like, look at all the stuff you have done since then. I was like, those are good things that you have done. It doesn't even have to be like major life stuff like that. You just have, it can be a win like in a day. That like
it could be you had the best blueberry muffin from your favorite bakery for breakfast.
Right.
Look forward to getting another one tomorrow.
Like exactly. Like we don't have to have like these major like positive shifts in our lives in order to feel like good or to appreciate them. fucking tiny thing. I went hiking like a year ago. I took time to myself to go hiking, and I hiked for like 4 days. I did like 20 or 30 miles or something. I don't remember. And you know what? Like the two things that stuck out, that made the entire trip. Okay. First day, I'm up on a ridge and there's like mist going across the trail. That's it. That like made my fucking day. That could be the only thing that I saw, right? But it was like the mist on I was like, this is fucking, it's like one of my favorite mental images. And then the other, I found this amazing, I had this amazing campsite by a river or by a little creek or something. And there was just like a little pool that you could sit in, like in the creek next to the campsite. And I just like sat in there and like for hours, like just listening to the water. Again, that could have been the only thing I did. Like, but that is such it's like being present. Like I talk about mindfulness a lot with like friends, and it's really just about like being like, if you can appreciate one thing in the here and now, that is a powerful thing, like for mental health.
It is. It's so easy to focus on the bad things.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, a good thing, even if it's a small good thing, happens to us every day. Something good happens, whether it's your coffee order was perfect, or there wasn't any morning traffic, or your outfit looks fantastic, or your eyeliner is on point, and whatever, there's a good thing that happens. A stranger holds the door for you. Like, it could be small, but a good thing happens to us every single day. And it's so easy to focus on the bad and overlook the good. But if you try and you take a moment to think about all the good and appreciate it, it makes the bad a little less difficult to deal with.
5 years ago, or 5 years and one day ago, I would have said that all that stuff sounds like superficial and like ridiculous, like one good thing in a day, like that doesn't make any difference. I could not have been at a worse place 5 years ago, like that rock bottom. And those small little things that you can appreciate, I can find joy right now in this one thing. And that little slice of joy that I have, like right now, this one thing that I'm enjoying, this is all that matters. Like, that is it. It's a fucking muffin or a coffee order, and the taste is perfect. Like, you got to think about that. Like, you are engaging your senses, right? Like, you are feeling the present.
You're alive.
Yeah, dude, that is so powerful to be able to enjoy something as simple as that. And
it is.
I think a lot of times, I think we get the wrong message from people, like on the internet. Like, you have to have like the perfect body, or you have to make a bunch of money, or like do this, like get your life in order, blah, blah. Maybe you don't have to do any of that shit. Like, your life can be a fucking disaster. As long as you're going on to the next day and like you found something that was good today, like it's all that fucking matters.
The key words in your life are your.
Yeah.
It's your life. You can't live it for other people. You have to do what makes you happy. You have to focus on your successes and your wins and yourself in order to be successful in life, I think. And I don't mean like be a selfish cunt. Sorry if that's a bad word to you. I love that word. But
cunt is the best.
Isn't it? Everybody hates that word, but I love that word. But
single syllable, it's sharp on the front and the end. It's like a gutter.
It's like a punch in the face. It's a verbal punch in the face. That's why I like it. Don't be selfish like to other people, but I mean, be selfish in the way of taking care of yourself and looking after yourself. Because I thought of an analogy. If I can English, I know how to English, I promise. But I thought of an analogy while you were talking. But I said the little things that are good can make the bad things not seem so bad. And what I mean is if you think of the bad thing like you're walking and you fall into a hole, and that's the bad thing. You're like, there's no way I can get out, and there's no way I can deal with this. I'm screwed. But you focus on a good thing that happened, and it's like a little foothold on the side of the hole, and you can climb up a little bit, and then you don't have to deal with what's beneath it. You're just working on getting through back out of the hole. And all the little good things are like little footholds and handholds, so you can climb your way out.
Oh, that is a really good way to look at it. I like that. The good things are the handholds to help you climb your way out. It's funny you mentioned holes, because I feel like people with depression imagine pits and like waves and just like,
because that's what it feels like. Yeah. It feels like you're just sunk down in the world.
I I used to so all right. So I've never been really an anxious person. Just always depression is my best friend. Me and depression go back a long way.
Me too.
Anxiety and we don't understand each other. But
Oh, well, I got both of them on speed dial if you need some tips.
but in the job I have now, can be very stressful if you are an anxious person, and I'm not, and I never have been. And I work with a very skittish young man who really wants to do good at his job, but he is always like on edge. And when something goes wrong at work, he is like, "Oh, it is a disaster." And he has like asked me more than one time, like, "How do you stay so calm?" And I don't tell him that my superpower is that I've been to hell. Like, I lived in hell for a while. I'm just like, yeah.
Nothing phases us anymore, does it?
Exactly. I'm just like, I don't know, man. After a while, you see some bad stuff, and you get used to it. You know how to respond. But like, secretly, I'm like, actually, I spent a long time like, you wouldn't believe how bad things. I've seen shit you couldn't imagine. All right.
Yeah, like, it could be so much worse. This is nothing.
Yeah. Like, the place my life was in 5 years ago. This that we're dealing with now is way better. I'd rather be doing this than anything I was dealing with like back then. This is great. I can deal with this every day. I love this. And I don't have the heart to tell them that, like, I'm like,
life's already knocked me down.
What?
That's why.
How do you stay so calm? I've already had my major psychotic break. I can't have another. I mean,
I had a midlife crisis. Yeah. You're just not old enough yet.
Yeah, like you'll get there one day. Don't worry. He won't though, unless he has a psychotic break. But here's hoping that
bless his heart.
Yeah, here's hoping that gung ho 20-something-year-old. Here's hoping he never has a psychotic break. But honestly, with as anxious as he is, it's coming.
Honestly, I don't know. I've never technically had a psychotic. Well, I guess technically I have if I try to kill myself. But
yeah, that's a thing. But hey, no, I'm not
I don't
using.
know. Part of me, like, I've never had a psychotic break where I end up getting committed to a mental hospital and taken care of.
Okay,
but that's probably because I wasn't surrounded by people who actually gave a shit.
I feel targeted now.
No, but what I'm about to say, if you'll just shut up and listen. No, I kind of feel like it'd be a little freeing to get to that point.
Oh, it was.
I feel like it would be, because I feel like it's never going to end. And then you hit rock bottom and you're just like, fuck it. And then other people take care of you for a little while and you're good.
Dude, I was in there for 9 days. I didn't have to put on shoes. I mean, technically, I wasn't allowed to put on shoes because they have laces. So you have to go around in your socks. But in my head, I was like, I don't have to put on shoes. This is amazing. Like, also, here's the other thing, too. Like, not being a social person and all that. I've never had so many friends as in the psychiatric hospital.
Because they're all weirdos like you.
I know. I was like, man, these are my people. I like these people. Like,
yeah, it's because when we go out in the real world, we get with the people who had normal childhoods and we don't know how to interact with them.
Yeah.
And we have that dark humor that trauma gave us. It scares normal people. I learned that in school too. I learned that because we have mannequin heads with real human hair. And the one dude in our class was like, I wonder if they get these, like, where they get the hair from. Like, is it a cemetery or something? Like, are they alive? And I was like, no, he was like, I wonder if the people whose hair this come from are still alive. And I was like, no, they just go rob cemeteries at night to supply us. And so you laugh at that. They looked at me like I had grown a second head. And I was like, can't use my dark humor here. Got that. 10-4.
You guys are a little green for that. Got it.
You're not old enough to be that traumatized. I understand.
But yeah, no, I've never felt so popular or liked in my life as at the psychiatric hospital. It was awesome. Though on my intake, though, it was a long wait, and there was a guy. You're isolated in this, like, it's an intake room. It's clearly like a holding cell, but it's an intake room. And it had, like, furniture in it. It was fine.
They can call it something different. It's okay.
Oh yes. The guy in the room next to me realized, I think, that he wasn't going to be getting out because it was an involuntary admission or whatever. And So here's the thing about going to a psychiatric hospital. You don't get to go to work and make money. And if you have like an hourly job, this is bad because you will lose your job. So it's a very real like thing where when you're put in one against your will, like now your life is going to like it's you. Yes, you're now on a downward spiral because you're in the hospital. And the guy in the room next to me realized this. And I thought he had a very appropriate response because he just started yelling at the top of his lungs, fuck, 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 fuck. Like, I mean, loud, echoing the entire building. And but he was saying, fuck, fuck, fuck. I have to go to work. And I was like, yeah, this guy's probably getting fucked right now. Like, he has every right to be pissed off and scared and worried. And then I heard him like hitting stuff. And I was like, yeah, but he's probably right where he needs to be. Like, this is probably okay for him. Like, he'll be fine.
This is probably what he really needs.
Yeah.
This is no, I remember I actually, a few years ago when I started smoking this, the reason I started smoking pot is because I still say that so quietly because I'm like, shh, it's bad, even though I literally bought this at a store in town.
Is that Delta 8?
But it's THCA. So it does the same shit as the illegal shit.
But it's legal.
But it's legal.
Nice.
I know, right? I was like, hell yeah. We tried it. We were like, damn, we don't even need to call our dealer anymore. And the best thing is if we get a dud pin, we can just take it back and get another one.
You get a
like
refund.
It's not playing the lottery. It's great. It's great. Anyways, so what happened was it was around Christmas time, naturally. It was December. And my depression was horrible. And it always gets bad around the holidays. But it was really bad that year. And my PTSD was also really, really bad at that time. I was having nightmares. I was having flashbacks. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. And then I started having the suicidal thoughts. And it's not, I want to explain that. It's not me being like, my life sucks. I need to kill myself. Suicidal thoughts. It was like I'd be driving in my car and the thought would pop into my head, drive into that tree. No one would know it was intentional. And it's not like I wanted to drive into the tree, but the thought was still there. And it scared me because I had, I'm a mom. I can't, kill myself. I got people dependent on me. So I got to the point where I was going to check myself into the mental hospital. But I was like, I can't take a vacation from being a mom for a month to get my shit together. I got to figure it out without. So I didn't let myself go, even though I could have. My husband could have taken care of Brennan. He wasn't looking forward to it, but he could have figured it out. I know that now that we have 2 kids. I know he can handle that shit. But I guess I didn't at the time. And so I didn't let myself go. And my husband was like, the only thing I can think of that might help is pot. And I used to be very, very anti-pot because I don't know if you know the people who raised me, but it was the devil's lettuce. And they're very anti-drugs and whatnot. Which, funny story, my mom told me when I moved down here, she goes, I guess you're going to hear this. But you know how, like, I've never seen her drink alcohol, smoke anything. Like, she's very straight-edged. And when I was moving down here, we were walking through a parking lot somewhere, and she goes, I guess you're going to find out if you're going to live with your father. But one time, he and your Auntie Lynn convinced me to do cocaine with them. And I was like, what? You laugh because you know her. Can you imagine that little...
No, that woman does not need cocaine. Her head shakes enough when she's telling a boring story about Kroger. Like,
seriously, my ex-brother-in-law said if but he literally was like, she's a nurse? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I would not let your mother anywhere near me with a needle. She has the unsteadiest entire body I've ever seen in my life.
That would be a nightmare to see your mother walk into my hospital room.
I'm pretty sure you would think you were abducted by a serial killer and it was part of the torture. Or at least I would if she walked in.
Oh, fuck, is this one of those Saw movies? Oh shit. To be fair, your mother would absolutely be a nurse, like in some horror show hospital.
Oh yeah, ooh, absolutely. No, and then she'd laugh. It's the laugh that would do it.
Fuck.
Remember that?
That woman has never heard people laugh before. She's made it up as she went along. Pete found weed in David's bag one time, and that was, oh boy, that was boy, he almost got mad. He didn't know what to do. Like when it actually came time to like a real life scenario, like a parent would have to deal with, he did not know what to do.
Yeah, he had no idea how to be a
He
parent.
was like, because David was supposed to be flying to California like the next day, and he was like, yeah, I almost made him stay home. Oh, almost. You let him go to Cal. You are so against drugs, but you were like, oh, wow, this is a stern warning about marijuana is bad, but okay, you can go to California. Well, like,
To fucking California
yeah,
too.
useless fucker, that guy.
I have one more piece of advice for people who have been assaulted. So, one thing that pissed me off after I told my dad, I mentioned that he wanted me to press charges and I wasn't ready. And he tried to guilt trip me by saying, don't you want to stop him from doing this to anyone else? And I want you to know, if someone says that to you, you need to know it's not your responsibility. You're not responsible for that person's actions or choices or anything else they choose to do. It's not on you. So don't let them push you into doing something you're not mentally ready for, because it is not going to end well for you. You'll get closure in some way, but it will still you might not live long enough to do it. It might fuck you up that bad. So don't let anybody try to put that on you. It's not your responsibility.
That was exactly what I was gonna say as soon as you said that. I feel like that's a version of victim blaming. It's one thing for an abuser to blame their victim. It's another thing for the world at large to say that a victim didn't do X, wasn't the perfect victim when this happened.
No.
Like they didn't come. Of course, people don't come forward. It's traumatic. Like you have PTSD from it. Two, it is embarrassing.
And you feel guilty.
Yeah, that you have these like because you have been conditioned as a kid to feel like this is your fault. And why did you let this happen for so long? Why are you letting it happen to other people? Like it's not your fault or your response. And that is so hard for other people to understand.
It is, because they see it as if you come forward, you have the power to stop it. And
Yeah.
technically you do. But that's not your job. You're not a cop.
No.
You're not a DA. You're not a judge. It's not your job. You're not getting paid for that shit. Your job is to survive. And if that means you have to wait to report it, then wait until you're ready. But I still recommend reporting it, because even if you aren't ready, eventually you will be. You'll get mad. You'll want justice. And that's when you go and you report it. And that's when you finally get that closure, and hopefully charges are brought and everything happens as it should. But don't do it before you're ready, because you will have to relive it. You will have to say it out loud. And that's very hard to do the first time around. So I recommend making sure you have a support system, whether one already in place. If you don't, find a therapist or call a hotline, talk to somebody about it, and then go to the cops. Unless it's an immediate thing, go to the hospital, get a rape kit, do it that way. But make sure you have a support system in place for when you come forward.
For people with mental health issues in general, the support system is something, for me, it was overlooked. I didn't even really have a concept of it. And realizing who my support network is, who my support system is, who the people like who actually care about me, that is a powerful thing to have like in your back pocket. And you're 100% right. Like you might not be ready to do that, but if you have people that support you, they will be there when you are ready. And that is a powerful thing to have.
It is. That's the whole point is of all of my advice is you're not alone. You're never alone. Even when the assault is happening, you're not alone. The person assaulting you is there. You have to live with it. And I'm not going to say he, because women can be abusers too. They have to live with it. But you're living from two different points of view. And they're getting all the power, the abuser is. And you feel like you have no power. So if you share that burden with people who are supportive of you, who will just listen when you tell your story, who won't tell you what you did wrong. If somebody tries to tell you what you did wrong, punch him in the face, run away, go find somebody else. Call me, I'll fucking listen to you. I don't care. But you know, don't try to do it alone. Nobody can go through that alone. We're not made to do that. We're made to be social. And if that means talking to a therapist or talking to your parents or talking to your spouse or friends or whoever, do it, because if they love you, if they support you, they'll help you carry that burden until you can relieve yourself of it entirely, until you're ready to do that.
When I was editing the last two episodes, I realized that I missed something very important. So Pete took a plea and there was no trial, only sentencing. But you went to the sentencing hearing and you went alone. And I want to ask about that day and also why you decided to go alone.
I didn't really want to go alone. I just couldn't really get anybody to go with me. But y'all were all working, and I was like, that's not really reason to ask them to take off work. And Laura was in Texas, and my dad had to work, and I went alone. It was scary at first, honestly. I thought I was ready to see him. And then right before he was led down the hallway, I started kind of having a panic attack because I wasn't sure if I was ready to see him. And then I saw him looking like sickly and emancipated, and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Um, but yeah, no, he was sentenced to 20 years, and I asked to make a statement. I don't know why I asked to make a statement. I didn't prepare a statement. I just felt like I needed to say something, and I told him I forgave him, which was bullshit, but I think I did it more for me than for him. But I do remember he wouldn't even look at me when I started talking, and I kind of snapped at him. I was like, look at me when I'm speaking to you. And that was fun. It's always fun to yell at him.
Did he wind up looking at you?
He did, though he didn't seem happy about it, but that's not my problem.
What was his did he have any reaction in the courtroom?
No, not really. He kind of looked like he wasn't really mentally there, kind of like vacant stared type thing.
So with no one to go with you and being alone in the courthouse, and giving your statement, I'm wondering if did you feel any sort of closure that day?
Um, I don't think it set in quite that day. I think what it was is it was such a long process. Like, because you watch like all the cop dramas on TV, and it makes it seem like it happens in like a month tops, but it doesn't. I pressed charges originally in January, and then he wasn't sentenced until November. So it was like a whole chunk of time that I had to prepare myself for it. And I knew he was going to prison. So it was just a matter of how long he was going to prison and if I was going to have to testify. And I think part of me was geared up to testify, and I didn't feel like I was going to get closure unless I did. And so when he took the plea, I guess part of me was kind of let down, partially because I didn't get to testify, but also partially because he only got 20 years and I would have preferred he got like way longer. But yeah, no, it took a little while to sink in, and it wasn't necessarily him being put behind bars. I think that gave me the closure. I mean, that was definitely part of it, but I think a bigger part was me telling people about it, telling you and Daniel and David about it, because that's something I struggled with for years, especially after Willa and Annika were born. I struggled so hard with not telling you guys and him being around them. And it is something that I fought with myself about a lot, because I didn't want to upend y'all's life. I didn't want to just take everything you thought you knew and completely ruin it with this revelation. So I think talking to you guys and y'all supporting me and believing me and being there for me is what got me to a place where I could accept the closure that was offered by him going to prison. Because it's not just the single act of him getting locked up that gave me closure over it. It's telling my story, not keeping the secret to myself anymore, putting it out in the world and beginning to heal from it.
And so over the last 7 years since you first called me about it, what has that closure transformed into, or how has that looked over the last 7 years for you?
It's still kind of a work in progress. Obviously, it's not like it was a cure all. I just got over everything. But a few months after he was sentenced, I stopped having nightmares every night. I stopped having flashbacks every day. Now they're very few and far between. I can count on one hand how many nightmares I have in a year, as opposed to every time I close my eyes. My anxiety is still pretty terrible, but it's better than it was. I don't feel like I have this weight just like sitting on me anymore. Like I felt so weighed down by the knowledge of the abuse and not telling anybody. It's like I have more space inside of me to appreciate things because I don't have that secret taking up space inside of me. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, cool. Because I'll just like ramble and I'm like, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else.
No, it does. So I told myself when we did this call I wasn't going to share a bunch of stories again, but I can't help it.
It's okay. I don't mind.
I'll start at when you called. Willa was in preschool, and part of me moving back to Murfreesboro and with Anna and starting a family and going to school, I was like, all right, I can, like, I'm an adult, I can reintegrate Pete and his mother back into my life. I can at least have not a normal relationship, but I can have he can come to birthdays and stuff. That's fine. I don't remember what exact day you told me, but it feels like it was a Friday or a Saturday, something like that. It was a weekend. But something strange had happened like a week or two before. It was Grandparents' Day at the preschool. Mm-hmm. And I had invited Pete and your mom to go. And they said they couldn't. They were busy. Something they couldn't make it. And I was like, well, I don't want Willa to be like the only kid at preschool whose grandparents don't show up. So I went during my lunch break. And when I got there, Pete was there and your mom was there. And they looked about as surprised as I looked to see them there. I was like, you didn't tell me you were coming to visit my daughter at preschool? And they were like, oh, well, our plans just came together. And I was like, okay, well, this is weird. I'm going to stay for lunch or whatever. And then you called. And the following Monday, I went to the preschool and told them not to let him on campus again and definitely not to pick up Willa. Took him off of the emergency contact list. And then they said, well, he's scheduled to teach a CPR class this weekend. And I was like, yeah, you should cancel that. You should cut all contact with that man. And they, to their credit, they didn't like hesitate at all. They just were like, got it.
Good.
But yeah, so that was, I think you called it like the perfect time. And I don't think I've ever given you credit for that, but everything worked out like perfectly when you were ready and decided to do that. So thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had done it sooner because it was so hard for me to see Annika running around about that age that I was, yeah. And David and Angela being none the wiser about the kind of person he was. And I struggled so much with telling y'all, and I couldn't do it until I pressed charges. And then it was more of I have to tell them because if they don't hear from me, they're going to hear from somebody. It's better if they comes from me. And I'm glad it was me. I'm glad I did do it because I was scared shitless to do it. But I could not have gone through that without y'all's support, without y'all believing me and being there for me.
Another thing that I hadn't thought of until you said it, when you gave your statement and you said that you forgave him, but that was bullshit. I did kind of a similar thing. Like I told myself like, well, I hate him. I don't ever have to talk to him again. He's a piece of shit, but I forgive him. And that was like a lie that I told myself because I definitely did not and have not. And one thing that happened when I was in the psychiatric hospital, I was in a therapy session, like a group therapy session. And I had never really dealt with Pete after you called me. Like I just sort of pushed it off to the side. I was like, okay, well, he's obviously a monster. I'll never have to think about him again. But you really do. It's something you have to eventually come to terms with. And the best thing that a therapist has ever said to me, we were in that group therapy session, and I asked the question, like, how do you forgive someone if you don't think they deserve forgiveness? And the therapist just said, do they deserve if they don't deserve forgiveness, why would you forgive them? And I was like, well, he's my father. And they asked for some details, and I told them vaguely, and she just looked me just locked eyes with me and was like, you don't have to forgive anybody for anything, especially that man. And that was such a relief. I no longer felt like that was something I had to.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, because when I told him I forgave him in court, I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
And I think I said it because everybody would always say, you gotta forgive him for you, not for him, but for you, for yourself, so you can heal. And honestly, I think it's a crock of bullshit, because he stole my childhood from me. He almost stole my life from me when I almost killed myself. And that's not forgivable. So fuck that. I don't have to forgive that. I don't have to live with that guilt of forgiving someone so monstrous, and neither do you.
And that was the way that the therapist framed it, or she asked why do you want to forgive him? And I was like, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do to heal? And she was like, no, that's she basically the same thing. She was like, no, that's bullshit. You don't have to it's not like you're withholding forgiveness. They don't deserve it. There is no opportunity to offer that.
Yeah, I feel like in order to forgive somebody, you have to understand them and what they did. You have to understand why they did what they did. And if you can't understand that, you can't forgive someone.
No.
So I can't understand why he did what he did. I never will. So I'll never forgive him, because it doesn't make sense to me.
The last thing that I'll say is, the whole reason I think that I wanted to talk to you about this and to do. It's 3 episodes, by the way. It's going to be 3,
Woo!
not 2.
We're going to get a whole season before this is over.
But no, the reason that I wanted to do this episode with you was I had been feeling. Oh, yesterday was 5 years, the 20th, 5 years, sober and alive.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And earlier this year, I was thinking I'm feeling kind of like I'm stagnating with my progression as far as mental health and therapy goes, and I was like, I don't get it. I've got my kid's doing awesome, my job is awesome, Anna's job is everything is going well, and then I had to admit to myself, well, there's this one thing that you haven't dealt with, and that's the whole situation with your father. You just kind of pushed it off and never dealt with it. So what I did was I took a moleskin notebook, and I just wrote out everything that I could remember about him. And I filled the entire notebook. And that's actually where all those stories came from that I told you. And that was when I realized most of those memories came from a single year. And then everything else after that was terrible. And at no point in there was a single good memory. None of it. When I could think of absolutely nothing else to write, everything fell apart and then came together. And I mean, it was almost instantaneous. You're saying this weight had been lifted off. The entire reason that I was so distant with you was I didn't know what to make of any of this. I don't think I wanted to deal with it. And as soon as I was done, that I texted you and I said, I'm sorry that I've been so distant. And it really fucked me up when I realized what you and I have talked about, that he was really good at keeping us separated and isolated. And I always wanted a sister, and I got 2. And as an adult, I am free to have a relationship with my sisters. And that was the cherry on top. He can't control that anymore. Fuck
no,
that.
You can call me to do your hair anytime.
I would love it. That would be my favorite. I did want to say also that I texted you, but I've gotten a lot of comments on how awesome you are and how brave you are and how badass you are.
Well, thank you.
I want you to know that for this episode, I could really tell in the last segment that we're doing, or that we talked about, that you really see this as a way to help people. And I hadn't thought about that until you said it. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. when was the last time like you heard like a family dish out the worst of what happened inside that family for like a good reason or a good cause, like to actually help people? And that's really awesome of you. I was feeling really emotional when I was doing that when I was editing the last episode, and I really don't have enough like kind words to give you, because you're an amazing person.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, I know it helps me when I was struggling to talk about it, to hear other people talk about their stories, and, to see that, their world didn't end when they came forward, and how much healthier they were once they did. So, I mean, just even writing it down like you did, just putting it out in the universe in whatever way you can, just makes you feel less alone. And it helps you feel like you can beat whatever it is that you're going through.
And I also really I really liked how you were describing like the small things every day that can make it a good day. Because I mean, I've thought about that since you said it. That is like exactly what I do. Like, I can just, so at work, I can just like walk around, right, and do whatever I want. And I can just like take a walk for 20 minutes, or I can like walk down to the MAPCO and get like an Almond Joy. Like, because that's like my favorite gross candy. Nobody likes Almond Joys.
But, I like Almond Joys.
Oh, thank God.
Mound's better, but I still like Almond Joys.
If you don't have an Almond Joy, a Mound's fine. But
it'll do for second place.
But it's like and that falls into like that category of self-care that I think people don't really understand. It's not about giving yourself like manicures or like taking baths or something. Like, it can literally be just taking a walk, or doing something that you're in control of. Mm-hmm. And the mental health aspect of like maintenance and like day-to-day caring for yourself, especially with a support system, I'm really glad you brought that up, because the idea of a support system was totally foreign to me, and I saw in you how big of a difference it made. And so actually the last thing I want to ask you about is your support system. Like, how robust is your support system now?
It's pretty good. I've got my husband. He's pretty good. I got his mama. She's awesome. She's like my mama now. I adopted her. We have a good mother-daughter-in-law relationship. I looked out on that. And I've got my dad. I've got my sister, Laura, our sister. But I've got her. I've got Jonathan. I've got my three friends, my three best friends, Tara, Tiffany, and Megan. And I've got you and Daniel and David whenever I want to talk to you. I got your wives. I can talk to your wives. I don't talk to your wives that much because I don't know why, but I could talk to your wives. I feel like if I needed to, they'd be there for me, and I appreciate that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like a super expansive one, but it's the people in my support group I know I can count on. And that's where the strength in your support comes from, is knowing you can count on those people.
This was part 3 of No Father is Better Than One. Above all, the one takeaway Jessi and I want you to have is that if you are a victim of abuse, you are not alone. We hope her story and how she got the courage to come forward helps you find a way forward. If you're a victim of sexual assault, there are resources that you can access right now. You can contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline, that is a service of the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAINN, RAINN. You can call them at 1-800-656-4673, or start an online chat now at online.rainn.org.